right, it's been a bit of an emotional week for everybody involved here in Tyson.
Yeah, that it has. I mean, it's an unfortunate events that have occurred, but I mean, it's not something that we're not used to dealing with. So.
Now, everybody saw the memorandum that was put out on the Typa website and of course, on Typa Radio. The Cypress Mustangs probably being the biggest hit that everybody's talking about, and that is the illegal player on their Division II junior team. There's a lot of info that's hitting everywhere right now. The email that apparently, or text message that was sent, the documents, the fake documents that were being produced, things of that nature. How difficult was this for you guys when you received all this information to really research it, investigate it, and come up with the decision that was made?
Well, I mean, it is difficult to do. I mean, once all the information is in, you got to kind of filter out all the stuff that is, just kind of bogus information and information that you can use that you can actually follow up on. I mean, a lot of times it's just an allegation without supporting evidence. But in this particular case, we did have supporting evidence that we were able to corroborate through our own investigation, and it's just making sure that you have all the correct information and that the information you have at hand is easy enough to follow up on.
Now, when you guys did talk to the Cypress Mustangs, what kind of response did they have? Was this something that they just weren't aware of? Were they shocked? Did they deny it? I mean, how did they take getting this kind of news?
Well, I mean, being that I was not on that arm of the investigation, Kenny, I mean, Chris Davis is the one that handled the kind of the notification of the respective organizations. Him and Cliff Cruz, who both were kind of the lead investigators, for lack of a better term, as far as on this particular incident. But from my understanding, when they did speak to the leadership of the Cypress Mustangs, that the first reaction is always, well, this is not true. But when presented with the evidence that we had, then it was just kind of they were kind of shocked. I mean, I can't really say what transpired on that phone call because I was not privy to that phone call, other than just being notified after the fact that they had been notified and that of the situation, and we were the corrective actions we were taking, and as far as their reaction to it, I mean, I'm sure they were shocked. I'm sure they wanted to say they did not know what had transpired. That was all on the coach.
Now, all the social media, because that's where everybody seems to just want to speak their minds. For every one negative comment regarding Typas making claims that we should have known about it, how did we not catch it during certification? We're at fault for this as well. For every one of those, there was probably 20 or 30 that's applauded Typa for their swift action, investigating and coming out with this decision and making the decision public. I think that was the big thing, to let everybody know that, yes, we know about this, we've investigated, this is what's happened. But what would you say to those that continually find reasons to fault Typa, particularly in this particular incident with the alteration, of legal documents like this?
Well, Kenny, I mean, this it's really sad that some people are still trying to point the finger at us. That it was something that we should have caught. But if we're presented with documents that they look legitimate, they have the look and the feel of what it is. I mean, apparently this person spent some money in order to go the extra mile to get a birth certificate that would pass. So, I've always said that where there's a will, there's a way. People are going to find a way to cheat. There's no foolproof way. There's no foolproof certification out there. Until we get to the point that we're doing DNA testing or fingerprinting of players, of course there's going to be those that can slip through the cracks because, like I said, those unscrupulous people that are out there are going to find a way to cheat the system. And so that's, to me, that's just a sad state of affairs that people would go to this level in order to cheat in a youth football game. There's nothing to be gained from it other than a trophy at the end of the year, which would be a hollow victory. I mean, I've said this to coaches and volunteers before. I don't know why anyone would cheat in youth sports, because it's not like the Dallas Cowboys are going to offer you a job if you win the Typa State Championship. So, for those that are trying to lay the blame on us, we did our due diligence. We did everything within our power. We have probably the best certification system out there. And I've heard the people say, well, no, the foolproof way is to go Texas IDs. But you know what? When you go to the DMV and you present a birth certificate, they're not questioning the child. All they're going to do is take the money it costs for that, take a picture of the child, and send him out the door. And if they say, well, how do you prevent this? Well, the only way this is going to be prevented is when there's serious repercussions or punishments for people who cheat outside of what we can do. I'm talking the legal means. I mean, as of right now, it's just a misdemeanor if you get caught, altering a state issued document. Well, once it becomes a felony, and once there's some serious punishments behind it, that will prevent people from doing it. But as of right now, it's a slap on the wrist. So, so state IDs are not the way to go either.
And this works out beautifully transitioning into this, outside of being a president of a league, president of TIFA, and, having to hand down these kinds of punishments for cheating and things of that nature. When you look at it as a whole, not just TIFA, any youth league that's out there, we see this all day and every day, and that's the amount of cheating, to go the extra mile just to be claimed a champion. How sad is this when you look at this as a whole, that this is the kind of lengths that people will go through to ensure that they have a winning program at a youth level where we're here to teach these kids?
Well, Kenny, like I said, it is a sad state of affairs because the people who do this, they're only looking at it from their own perspective. They're only worried about how it's going to help their kid or help that organization. They're not thinking about what it potentially could do when you get caught. Because when you get caught, it's not just your child or your reputation on the line. It affects the entire organization. It has a ripple effect too. Because one, that entire team is going to be out when you're caught with an illegal player. So those kids who had nothing to do with that player, or those parents who signed up for this team thinking everything was on the up and up, they've been duped. I mean, they're the ones who really ultimately suffer in this type of situation because, the actions of one affect many. And some of those many are innocent. They had no clue of what was going on. And that's what makes it hard from our standpoint is that, we have to punish the entire team or the entire organization. And some of those people had no clue. And they are just innocent victims in this situation. But you're right. It's not just football. It's basketball. It's baseball. And, it's hard to be in the mind of someone who wants to go those lengths to cheat and to really understand why they're doing it. Other than, like you said, for some championship that in the grand scheme of things, 20 years from now, 5 years from now, it's not really going to mean a hill of beans,
So, getting past the Mustangs, the Houston Hurricanes, and this is more of a this has been a topic of discussion in the past in meetings, whether it be board meetings, whether it be the annual meetings for the membership, and that is the dual participation rule. The Houston Hurricanes found to have a player that was dual participating and was sanctioned and losing being disqualified from the playoffs as well. How is this something that you think is going to come up in further discussions about the dual participation rule?
Well, I think it is, Kenny. I mean, you were at the meeting this past year, and you know that when this particular topic was brought up, there was some discussion about it. But ultimately, the discussion was tabled until 2018. We spent almost an hour and 45 minutes discussing this at the last annual meeting. And there were quite a few Houston organizations who stood up and said, hey, I like the rule, but there were quite a few that stood up and said, no, we need to keep the rule as is. And it's not just Houston. I mean, we go to all the chapters. I would say it was probably about 50-50. People wanted to talk about it. People wanted to keep the rule. People wanted to get rid of it. And we we talked ad nauseum as far as letting everyone know, if you do away with this rule, this is what's going to happen. If you keep the rule, this is what's going to happen. We tried to put all the pros and cons both way out there, but ultimately it was tabled, so therefore the rule stayed as it was currently written. Well, and we did explain, because someone, I think it was one of the newer organizations from Houston that asked the question, what are the repercussions or what are the punishments if someone gets caught doing that? And we actually read it verbatim, as far as what the punishments were and what the repercussions would be if you were caught having a dual participant.
Yeah, and I remember that. I mean, it was very specific on what was going to occur, and that's exactly what has happened here with the Houston Hurricanes. This rule, along with the hiatus rule, seems to be the two hotbed discussions each and every year when it comes to the rules committee for TIFA. Um, what's the answer with this dual participation rule? I hear both sides of it. I hear that kids should be able to play wherever they want to play, when they want to play, and then I hear the bad part of it, and that's teams particularly stacking up, particularly in the playoffs here in TIFA, because we run later than just about every other league in Texas.
Yeah, I think it's just twofold, Kenny. I think the premise of the rule was to prevent teams from loading up on players towards the end of the season as some of these other leagues end or end, and then type of playoffs begin, and then you're playing against a totally different team that you may have played against during the regular season. I think that's part of it. Like I said, from my own personal perspective, I'm not a fan of the rule. It's not a rule that I came up with. I mean, most people think that this is something that TIFA came up with, but this is a membership proposal 3 years back. Someone proposed that we should not allow players to play in TIFA and play in other leagues. And the membership voted that rule in, and it's been modified a couple times to add some different things. But to kind of circle back to where I was at, as far as I'm not a particular fan of the rule itself, but I understand why we have it. It's to prevent those teams from stacking up, but also on the flip side of that, it should be a parent's decision whether they want to put their kid in multiple football teams and multiple leagues. I mean, baseball does not have a rule against kids playing on multiple baseball teams. AAU basketball, you can play on AAU and play in club or rec ball at the same time as well. But it's not anything new to TIFA. It's not like we created this rule. This rule is being applied in other football leagues. Pop Warner has something very similar to it. Other football leagues that we researched have this same type of rule. So it's not something that we just created out of thin air. It's out there. It's just and like I said, we didn't even create it. It was suggested by one of our member organizations, and it just kind of caught on. And everyone said, "Hey, it makes sense."
What makes football so different than the other sports when it comes to the youth in the participation rule?
Well, I think some people are looking at it from a safety aspect, Kenny. I mean, yes, I see and agree with the safety aspect of the rule itself. It prevents a kid from, putting too much wear and tear on his body playing 2 or 3 games in a day or a span of the weekend. So we can see it from that aspect. Where I think people have a hard time with this rule is that they feel like the choice is being taken away from them, and that the punishment that we have for the rule is not fair because you're punishing those kids who did not dual participate. But I think the one thing that's getting lost in this whole thing, Kenny, when it comes to the Hurricanes, they weren't punished for this last game that they played because the player in question did not even participate in this past Saturday's game. He participated in 4 to 5 other games during the regular season. So once he did that, those games became forfeit. So therefore, the Hurricanes would no longer have the wins necessary to qualify for the playoffs. So that's why they cannot continue on.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I was unaware of that situation. I thought it was a playoff game that was in question.
Right. And then, like I said, that's just because there's so much noise out there on social media right now as far as what it is. I mean, we want to be as transparent as we can and put the information that we have to support our decision out there and to let people know when we do something because, other leagues, they don't do things like that. They won't say when they kick a team out or they won't give you the reasoning behind it, but we're trying to, be as transparent as we can without doing something that's going to put someone's safety in jeopardy or because, when we found out about this through outside means, someone came to us and reported this. So we want to be able to maintain some type of anonymity for those people so they feel safe to come to us and tell us this stuff so there's no repercussions to them.
Now, one last question, Brian. I'll let you go for the night. And this is something I know the answer to, but I have to ask because it's been mentioned so many times that I think they probably need to hear it from you. One of the questions that I was asked several times, because of the situation with the Mustangs and the Hurricanes, why didn't TIFA just go back and reseed and redo the entire first week of the playoffs?
Well, Kenny, we saw those same questions come across. And at this stage of the game, you've already had organizations who've turned in equipment, and we're too far along in the playoff process. Granted, it's only been week 1, to a certain extent. It's only been week one, but I mean, we've